Hello, hello, hello. Ever wondered how you can cut down the cost of customer acquisition for your e-commerce store? We all know that Google ads, Meta ads, even TikTok ads all cost money. They're not cheap. And there's every possibility that not every click will result in sale. Some people will click on your paid advertising and will not buy. Some people will even click on it multiple times and they will not buy. And the only way that you can get the best for your e-commerce store is to implement e-commerce SEO strategies. Why? Because this is how you can reduce the cost of your customer acquisition. I'm going to be talking about this in 5 sections for this podcast today. I'm going to start talking about keyword research. I'm going to talk about product page SEO, digital PR and link building. Then I'm going to talk about non transactional content. And then I'm going to look at success metrics that can help you see how you can reduce the cost of customer acquisition with organic SEO. Organic SEO is not free. Let's just be clear. A lot of organizations just see it as a free exercise. Sometimes that's why they don't even pay attention to it. Organic SEO requires an investment that will help you reduce the cost of acquisition for your paid advertising. So let's start with keyword research. Keyword research is always about intent. Someone that is ready to buy a shoe can type in shoe, but that person is just one in a huge number of people that are not really ready to buy. They're just there for the sake of it. So, what I'm trying to say here is in Google Ads, you attempted to avoid broad match keywords. You avoid it because they waste money. And the only way for you to get that traffic to your website is through organic search. What I'm trying to say is it's going to be dumb and not responsible for your Google Ads experts to be bidding on broad term keywords. If they're doing that, you need to fire them. But what I'm trying to say here is the focus of your keyword should be broad matched when it comes to organic SEO because that's cheaper. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy because broad match keyword by default is very, very difficult to rank for because you have more established brand names ranking for those keywords. So your strategy from an SEO standpoint to reduce the cost of customer acquisition is to focus on long tail keyword terms as well. A few weeks ago, I was talking to an e-commerce store and I did a small audit on their website and I saw that the keyword naming for particular product page was actually a brand name for that product. What I'm trying to say is this website sells printed shirts, like patterned shirts. But instead of having patterned shirts as the product page description and the keyword targeting, they just had their own brand name, a name that didn't have anything to do with print, that didn't have anything to describe the actual labeling of that product. This organization then spends money heavily on paid advertising to get people to that page. What I'm saying here is, whilst that page is not even optimized for organic search, it is not also optimized for paid advertising because what appears on the page does not align with the target keyword that they're optimizing for from a Google ad perspective. I'm able to say this because I also have expertise in Google Ads. I'm Google Ads certified as well. So I have an understanding of the synergy between Google Ads and SEO. So for you as an organization to get a very good result when it comes to profit, revenue, is for you to reduce the cost of customer acquisition. And you do this by using long targeted keywords, long tail keywords on your products as well. And another thing I mentioned earlier on is Google Ads has more information about high intent purchases. What I'm trying to say here is Google Ads gives you a treasure trove of search terms that will help you sell more. So what I'm trying to say is traditionally people do their keyword research with your normal SEO organic keyword research tool. In my personal opinion, this tool sometimes will categorize keyword based on intent, which is not always accurate. Someone searching, as I mentioned earlier on, for a broad term keyword does not mean they're not ready to convert. They might be ready to convert, but they just type in a broad match keyword as the start of their search. When they do not get that search result that they're looking for, then they expand on that search. It's similar to using ChatGPT for searches. And the good thing about ChatGPT is they're now showing e-commerce products on their listing. So it's important for you to optimize your pages for that. I'm going to talk more about how you can get picked up by all this generative AI for your e-commerce store as well. So you need to make sure that you're getting a hybrid keyword research. What I mean is for you to reduce the cost of your customer acquisition, your keyword research for paid advertising and for SEO needs to be integrated. As a business leader, I would encourage you to have a synergy between your SEO, Google Ads, even your conversion optimization and email. All these four disciplines to share your keyword approach. There should be a unified keyword strategy. Although it will be decentralized where they would then all target the keywords, but that needs to come up at the top. So then you're able to have synergy and alignment, which will overall reduce your customer acquisition cost. So now let's talk about product pages. These pages don't get a lot of love because most time the default is these pages are heavily trafficked. They get traffic from paid advertising. But for your e-commerce SEO strategy, one thing I want you to look at as a business leader is to ask the question from your SEO agency or your digital marketing agency or your e-commerce manager or whoever is managing your marketing. You want to ask them what exactly are the Search Console data showing for each keyword that is important for conversion. How many impressions are you getting for those keywords? And how many of those keywords are getting picked up by GEO, which is Generative Engine Optimization, AI, to put it mildly? So for your product page, the first thing you need to look at is the page title. As a business leader, you need to ask the question, what exactly are the page title, your H1, and the page description for your e-commerce store? I see a lot of organizations ignore this important information, or the information on that page does not really align with the actual keyword that is relevant from a conversion standpoint. So for your product page, you make sure that you speak to your agency and ask them the question about the optimization of the H1, that's the header of the product page, the subheader, the product description, and the meta description. So basically, for every product page, there's a certain information called page title, which is sometimes different to what appears on the page. This is what Google will pick up and show in search engines. You have the flexibility of tailoring that description, that title, and that description in a way, if optimized properly, that would increase the click through rate of that product page on Google search and will get more people to your product page. So, what am I trying to say? For Google Ads, one of the important metrics is the potential click through rate, the estimated click through rate of a listing. The same approach applies to search engine optimization. You see a lot of gurus try to ignore the importance of the page title and the meta description. These two things will impact your click through rate. If click through rate is important in paid advertising, then surely it's important for SEO. So you want to make sure that you ask the question of your SEO team about your page title. It's divided into H1 to H6. You want to ask them that question. Is each product page titles optimized with the right keyword? And is the meta description, the page meta description, the product page description on the page itself, how is it aligned and what synergy does it have with the description that is appearing on search engine results page as well? Then another thing you want to look at is the image optimization. I recently had a conversation with a prospective client, and one thing I noticed quickly when I was looking on their website is they were using basic stock images. As an e-commerce store, you want to make sure that your image is actually optimized for conversion. There are two ways you can optimize your image for conversion. Number one is you make sure that whoever is uploading the image is uploading a high quality image. And it's just not an image just for the sake of it. The resolution of the image is really good. And number two, you want to make sure that the size, the file size of that image is not too heavy. Because whilst we all say, oh, page speed is not that important, it's important from a mobile experience perspective because if the page image is too heavy, the page won't load as fast as possible. And from a user experience perspective, that person trying to buy on mobile would dump your website and go away. I mentioned earlier on about generative engine optimization. I mentioned about AI now picking up products and showing products to people in the search. We all know that AI started as an answer engine optimization and a search engine optimization alternative to Google and other search engines. Even you have platforms like even WhatsApp has an AI feature. But what I'm trying to say is this generative engine and other sources of how people can get to your page require certain type of information. The information they require is something called structured data. That structured data will give those engines more information about your product. So you want to make sure that you discuss with your agency to make sure that your product pages have implemented structured data. You want to make sure that the price, the availability of the review rating. So basically what I'm trying to say is you want to make sure that the structured data pulls review information as well. It pulls shipping information, image links, and all size, color, gender, age group, product type, shipping information. All this information, if it's attached to your product page, those are the information that AI, ChatGPT, and other, even Google itself, would pull. And that would also offer rich information on your SEO listing. So whilst you have features like that in paid advertising, Google Ads gives you that feature. They call it ad extensions, where you can add all this information. You can mimic that look and feel of your Google Ads for SEO as well by making sure that structured data is implemented correctly on your product pages. Then another thing that you want to ask your agency as a business leader, you don't need to know all these things, but you need to ask the questions. And when you ask that question, it triggers them to give you the answer. And it makes them do better because they'll like, oh my God, this guy knows what he wants. So they won't be able to bamboozle you. So make sure you ask them about the title, the image optimization, the structured data, and then technical optimization. You want to ask them, okay, there's certain group of products that fall within the same theme, the same category. You want to make sure that there's internal linking across your product pages. You want to make sure that products that are tightly knitted together in terms of from a theme perspective are linked together. You also want to make sure that when a product is not available anymore or a new product has replaced an old product, one thing happens that is called redirect. Say, for example, you have a page, a product page that you sold product on for a long time, and then you've discontinued that product. you want to make sure that that page just doesn't get deleted for the sake of it, because from an SEO standpoint, there might be link authority on that page. So you want to make sure that those pages, again, these are questions that you ask from your agency and your SEO consultant, to make sure that the old pages are redirecting to the new pages. In the instance where you then have multiple redirects over a long time, over a long period of time, that becomes a problem. So you want to make sure that you do not have redirect loops. So that's another thing you need to work on. That's a technical SEO thing. So if you need help with technical SEO for your e-commerce store, reach out to me. I'm going to be happy to help you. Also, your URL structure as well. These are things that you also need to ask your agency. What is the URL structure like? Is it SEO friendly? You want to look at even the links that are not working anymore. Maybe I mentioned earlier on a page that you had before that has broken. You want to make sure that anything pointing links to that page externally, you're able to communicate with that external website source to then redirect that page, that link to the right page. And you want to make sure that when you're selling a product that you're a reseller, there's a temptation to just get content from the manufacturer, the main supplier, and just use that content across your e-commerce store. That is lazy, and that can affect your ranking as well, because you want to make sure that you have unique content. The content on your pages needs to be really, really unique. So the next thing we're going to talk about is then link building off page SEO. Again, this is something that's sometimes ignored by most teams. So for you to reduce the cost of your customer acquisition is for you to show up more in Google. Your products need to show up in Google. And the only way your product can show up in Google is if your website has authority. And the default way for your website to have authority is for you and your team to collaborate with influencers, bloggers, product review professionals, people that talk about the product that you sell. You want to make sure that you have relevant links from those bloggers, those influencers pointing to your e-commerce website. Another thing you want to make sure about is you also want to make sure that your presence in the review websites is in fact optimized. Because I mentioned in a video a while back, I talked about the importance of online reputation management, because the narrative of your brand or product will impact on your conversion. And for you to reduce customer acquisition costs, you need to increase conversion. And negative reviews across social media and review websites will reduce your conversion. So you want to make sure that you've implemented digital PR and off page optimization in a way to optimize review websites. Then another thing you need to look at as well is your close substitute products. I know Google mentions that you need to get links from relevant sources. Close complementary products are also relevant because they're relevant. Say, for example, you sell shirts. You can get links from some website that talks about fashion in general, although it's not specifically tailored to that product in particular, but it's in the same niche, it's in the same content neighborhood. So you want to make sure that you discuss with your SEO or your agency or your consultant to get the right backlinks to help your e-commerce store rank very, very well. It's very, very easy to just focus all your efforts on product page, category page, homepage, and you sometimes ignore the importance of non-transactional content on your e-commerce store. Every large website, e-commerce website that I've worked with have a non-transactional content on their website. For example, let's take e-commerce retail in the luxury space. You have guides, style advice. You have all this information where it gives people the opportunity to come back to your website and get information even though they're not ready to buy. This non-transactional content also help people come to your website. They find your website when they're looking at a particular topic that they're interested in. When they land on your website, then they then discover through internal links, you can then point them to the product on your website, keeping them on your website. So the first thing you want to do when you're looking at non-transactional content is to create content for the top middle of the customer purchase funnel. What this means is you create brand awareness content, people that are in the informational search phase. This area is having problem because you now have AI filling those answers for people. So most informational searches have limited traffic. So most websites are losing traffic when it comes to informational searches. But those generative AI engines like ChatGPT and Perplexity still mentions those brand terms. And in some instances, you have people that want more information because the information offered in generative engines is summarized. So when they, even in Google AI overviews, is sometimes summarized. So, but when someone really wants detailed information, they are bound to click through and come to your website. So you want to make sure that you're creating content, and creating content sometimes gets misinterpreted. It doesn't mean you have to create new content all the time. You can also update and review your existing non-transactional content on your website to see what has been the changes, what has been the improvement in trends that you can improve on. So for e-commerce stores, you have, most times you can create comparative content, like comparison content, where you compare your product with your competitors' products and you list it side by side with a tilted narrative to kind of boost the importance of your product and highlight more of the disadvantages of the other competitor and competing products as well. Another effective way to create non transactional content is through video content. Most e-commerce stores just use their YouTube channel and video strategy as a dumping ground for any video asset that was just created randomly. I've worked with large brands, small brands. There's actually not a lot of people that does YouTube SEO, especially when it comes to e-commerce. For example, you create a product video and then you optimize that product video. That product video will get you natural organic search. And if you embed that product video into a landing page or even into your product page, that increases conversion by 70%. Research shows that. So, this is another way to create non transactional content to help you reduce the cost of customer acquisition. You can create short videos for TikTok. We all know TikTok has TikTok Shop. This is a video platform that is used to sell products. So if you have TikTok Shop, people selling through that, and you have an e-commerce store, you can use the same principle by creating both transactional and non-transactional video content to help people understand the value proposition and increase the speed at which people convert as well. Another non-transactional content that you can create is user-generated content. These are content that you can create by incentivizing people as from a post-purchase experience standpoint and encouraging them to give reviews and post positive affirmations about your product, and that will be user generated content. You can even create a strategy where they can send in their product images of using the product or their reviews, a short video review, by incentivizing them or just nudging them to do that. When you add all this information to your non-transactional content pages, it gives you more visibility from a search engine optimization perspective. You also need to make sure that you keep the content fresh. Whatever product or service you're creating content for, it needs to be freshened up. Again, this is where you look at quality over quantity. Don't make the mistake of just creating non-stop content, because the more content you create, it then gets to a stage where people are just fatigued because the content gets too much. But if you work on optimizing existing content, that actually meets the customer intent at each stage of the purchase journey, that is a very, very positive thing to do. So now let's talk about success metrics. It's changing because the metric before is ranking on search engines, getting click through rate. But now the problem is some of this information is being served as answers in search engine, and people are not actually clicking to a website anymore. So you need to make sure that your success metric is actually looking at your Google ads. And this is where the synergy between Google ads and SEO is important. They both need to be in the same room. And you need to look at, okay, SEO is going to ask Google ads, where do you need help? And how can I help reduce your customer acquisition cost? And then Google ads will then go and say, okay, these are top performing converting assets, pages, even display websites where you have all those information, all those ads showing up. And then this will give more insight to the SEO person that, okay, we can then prioritize this and this and this and this keyword from an intent perspective. You know, I mentioned earlier on that the SEO tools out there, some of them claim to group keyword by intent, but the best way for you to actually confirm keywords by intent is from Google Ads. That's why I said your success metric should be determined by having SEO, conversion optimization, and Google Ads in the same room. And the target metrics should always be at least 5% year on year growth. That's the bottom line. So basically, you need a T shaped person to pull this off because an SEO person does not know Google Ads. A Google Ads person does not know SEO. A CRO person does not know SEO and Google Ads. So what I'm trying to say is marketing in the real world is fractionalized. It's segmented heavily. You need someone with a T-shaped skill that can see all three disciplines and see the synergies where they apply. That is where I come in because I'm an SEO expert, a Google Ads expert, and a CRO expert certifying those three disciplines. And I help businesses to reduce cost of customer acquisition by creating that integrated strategy that would reduce your cost of customer acquisition. My name is Femi Olajiga. I'm a growth marketing consultant. If you need help reducing the cost of customer acquisition with SEO strategy for your e-commerce store, reach out to me and I'll be happy to help you. Thank you. Bye.